You worked and worked and worked to get this volunteer to serve in ministry, and now they're not cutting it. What in the world are you going to do? I mean, could you fire a volunteer? Well, in this episode, we're going to talk about exactly that. Here we go. You know, there was a time I was serving a great church up in Iowa, and we had this guy who was a volunteer at the church who was just really a very simple guy, nicest guy in the world. I mean, Dave was so nice. You'd have fun with him. He'd have fun with you. But he wasn't the kind of guy that you could put in a variety of volunteer roles. He was pretty limited. Well, we had a guy that actually was my next door neighbor. He had passed away, and Arnie was the guy who always did the sign out front. Now, this was back at a point where there were no digital signs, and so he'd go out there and he'd put these pithy little sayings up there. I remember the one that got the most attention was this, when he put up the saying that says, "The only problem with bucket seats is not everyone has the same size bucket." So you have to think that one through. Anyway, I hope you heard me say bucket. So with that, You would lift up the sign cover, and you'd go underneath it, and you'd put these words up there. Well, you don't want to put a 6'8" guy in there. You want a short guy. Well, Dave was a short guy, so I thought this will work well. Dave could every week, on Thursdays, I think we changed the sign. He'd go in there, we give him the saying, whatever it be, and he would put the words up. That was not Dave's strong suit, because Dave would get in there, he'd spell words wrong. So now they're on the church sign. Words are spelled wrong. Simple words are spelled wrong. Commas are in the wrong place. The letters aren't spaced properly. So now I have to figure out what to do with Dave. I need to remove Dave from this position. And if you've ever been in a spot where you've got a volunteer, good guy, and they're serving in a role that it's not cutting it, you're really figuring out, how do I fire this volunteer?
Right.
And so in this case, I was able to move Dave to a different position, and all was good. But you had to be very careful with that.
Yeah.
You're not just in the corporate environment where, hey, you're there, you're gone.
Yep.
So you're dealing with volunteers, and so that's what we want to talk to you about today. How do you fire a volunteer?
Yep.
And we're going to just walk through this and see if we can give you some tips that are going to help you as you find a volunteer that doesn't fit.
Yep.
And you're going to need to either fire him or move him to a different position.
Well, I'm going to jump in and throw out the first thought for this, and that's just to prevent this prevent having to fire the volunteer in the first place.
So you're saying I did it wrong in the first place?
Well,
with Dave?
I'll let you be the judge of that.
Yeah. Well, I did. I did it wrong in the first place.
But the idea is we want to recruit people, put people in the right spots.
Right.
And you didn't quite do that.
I didn't think it all the way through.
Yeah.
That's right.
So you got to recruit people, find them in the right spots, set the proper expectations for what you expect for this role, and make sure that they're on board with that, so that way you know that this is going to be a good fit for both parties.
Right.
And then you have to do the old inspect what you expect.
Right.
And what happens a lot of times is we just don't want to confront. We don't want to have to deal with it. And so what we do is, we'll just kind of let that slide.
We hope it goes away.
Hope it goes away. Let that slide. Okay, well, that hope strategy is a failed strategy.
Does not work.
It doesn't. And you have to eventually get to the point where you have to have this confrontational conversation. So it's much better to prevent this in the first place. Get the right people on the right seat on the bus. Make sure you do all you can. You can't, it's not foolproof. Inevitably, something doesn't quite work perfectly. But everything you can do possibly to do that is going to help you and address things immediately before the little spark becomes a huge forest fire.
Exactly. And with that too, I'd say I would encourage you to cross-train your volunteers. You want multiple people knowing how to do multiple things. So if you have to do something, you're covered with it. We have a few episodes, episodes 12, 13, and 14, where we talk about recruiting church volunteers, increasing volunteer retention, and this all ties in to setting the stage for you not to be in this position in the first place, where you'd have to actually terminate someone.
Yep. Then the next thing you want to do is kind of, as you start to walk the journey of getting to the point where you move them, is to cast the vision for some different ministries and the exciting things that are happening that they might be a good fit for. So you're kind of planting these seeds and you're talking to them
while they're in the position that's not working.
Yes. Yeah. You're already beginning to talk future for them and getting them hopefully excited about some opportunities that you're going to have for them here shortly.
Well, and when you do that, what you really want is you want the volunteer to say,
Ooh, yeah.
hey, Jonathan, maybe I'd like to work in that ministry. To which you say, good idea.
Yeah,
Let's
actually,
talk.
I think you would be a great fit.
I think you'd
for
be
that.
a great
Yeah.
fit. And that's the kind of thing, really, that I, in hindsight, after I put Dave in that bad, awkward spot, we were able to talk about new opportunities for him where he'd be a much better fit. So you want your volunteer to buy into that new vision you're casting for. Even though you don't say, hey, you're not cutting it, I'm casting a new vision. Cast the new vision, get them excited about it, and then they'll ask to switch. That's what you want to have happen.
Yep.
You know, from a very practical standpoint, have another volunteer ready to go.
Yeah.
You know, so as I'm critical of myself in how I put Dave in that spot, I had to be ready the moment I had Dave move out of that sign ministry and move to indoor hospitality is where we transitioned Dave.
Yeah.
I had to have somebody ready to go.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just going to solve one problem and create another.
Yeah.
So you got to have another volunteer ready to step up to make that transition.
Yep.
And then ultimately, make the switch.
Right.
You know, Jonathan talked about the hope strategy. You can't hope it's going to go away.
Yeah.
You do the things we're talking about, make the switch, and then you're on to better things.
Well, and I think this is something that's it's not a bad thing. And sometimes we think of, of course, we're calling it firing the church volunteer, but we want people to operate in their gifts.
Yeah,
and your example of Dave is a great example where he was not functioning in the right, if spelling isn't his strong suit and you got him doing a job that requires spelling, well, we need to get him in an area where he's going to thrive and he's going to be excited about and oftentimes what will happen is they're eventually going to quit anyway.
Yeah. Because it's so miserable for them. They know.
Yeah, they know. So we don't have to avoid it and the confrontation. We just need to embrace it and say, hey, we need to make some adjustments. And more times than not, people will be on board.
With a step up.
Yep.
Give us a summary here, Jonathan.
So the 5 things that we talked about here on how to fire a church volunteer or move them to a new role is, first of all, if you can, prevent this from happening in the first place.
Right.
Then cast exciting vision for them of future opportunities that they would have. Third is then get the volunteer to even ask for the switch. So rather than you having to ask, hopefully through your casting vision, you're able to get them to ask. Fourth is have another volunteer ready to fill the slot when you make that switch, which is number 5, to actually make the switch. So once you do all those things, that's going to help position you for greater days ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to also mention that this whole process is a leadership process. This is a process we have to continually grow at. And one of the ways you can grow personally as a leader so that way you're more effective leading and navigating these types of tough decisions is when you join the Leaders.Church Masterclass. Yep. And this Masterclass is a just under an hour presentation I put together that you can go through at any point. Just sign up for it at Leaders.Church/Masterclass. Or /secrets, excuse me. I don't think it is /masterclass.
No, secrets.
/secrets. So I'm going to mess you all up here. Leaders.Church/secrets. And it's the 4 secrets pastors can use to elevate your personal leadership effectiveness. When you go through these things, it's going to help you be more effective as a leader. And as a result, you'll be able to navigate these types of situations more effectively, quicker, and easier in the days to come.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the last thing we want to mention to you is our friend over at Church Marketing University, Ryan Wakefield, has opened up CMU to new enrollees up through the 15th of October.
Yep.
So just go to Leaders.Church/CMU and you can check out all the great stuff. It's unbelievable. I was over there and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I can't believe he's doing what he's doing, offering it for the price he's offering it. So go check it out, Leaders.Church/CMU, and you're going to see some great things there. We hope that you found this podcast helpful, and if there's anything we can do for you, don't hesitate to give us a holler. In the meantime, make it a great one and be blessed.
Hey, Jonathan here, real quick before you go. Everything in your ministry rises and falls on your leadership. So investing in your leadership is essential to staying healthy and growing the ministry. And that's why I want to invite you to join us inside the Leaders.Church membership. This online streaming service for pastors gives you access to more than 300 videos plus training material to level up your leadership and improve your ministry skills. If you'd like to do that, I want to invite you to go to Leaders.Church/boost. Again, that's Leaders.Church/boost. Well, thanks again for joining us on the Church Tips Podcast. We'll look forward to seeing you next time.